Hi, and welcome to the 8th section of this course, Azure Storage Performance. In this section, we will take a look at how we can fine-tune our storage service to perform better. We will start off with the introduction of content delivery networks. Then we will move ahead and configure the blob sizes to make sure that our users can quickly access the blobs and the contents. Later on, we will take a look at how Azure replicates the data in different regions and how we can access them. Lastly, we will take a look at the caching services offered in Azure CDN, integrating Azure Storage Account with Azure CDN. In this video, we will take a look at an overview of Azure CDN network, how we can enable the CDN service by creating a new CDN profile, and how we can set up the configurations for the CDN to configure how our CDN supports and serves the content that is available in the Azure Storage Service. First of all, the Azure CDN itself is a solution offered by Microsoft Azure on behalf of third-party vendors such as Verizon. Azure CDN supports different profiles and pricing information based on the customer needs and the offers made by the vendors. We already took a look at the basics of CDN and how CDNs work in section 2. So in this video, we will just move ahead and create a new profile on Microsoft Azure. Let's go to Microsoft Azure's portal and open up the Azure CDN tab under the blob service. You can see that there is currently no endpoints selected for our service. We can configure them right away in this portal instead of having to create an Azure CDN service separate and then bringing it back over to this portal. Scroll down to the bottom and you can see that you can use custom domains to point to your own CDN network that is hosted on Azure. If you want to use this option and support your customers to access the services and resources from a custom domain such as the business branded domain, then you will use this option. It will open up this blade and you can find the solution that works for you, such as if you already have a custom domain or if you want to buy a custom domain and then map it to the Azure CDN service. You can find the solution over here. However, we will move ahead and try to create a new endpoint on Azure portal. Azure CDN, as already mentioned, supports different pricing tiers such as premium or standard, each one offering different set of features and services such as distributed denial of service attack prevention or different set of bandwidth or caching services. You can see all of them in their own pricing information on the documentation provided by Microsoft Azure. You can also create a new profile and Microsoft Azure will create a new profile for you on the cloud. However, since I already have an account, I will use an existing one and Azure will automatically configure the selection for me. I can go ahead and enter the name for the endpoint that I want to use. You can set anything over here. It basically allows you to use this endpoint to access the resources from your storage account. The origin host name is the name for your storage account or where the resources are located. Since we have not yet mapped any custom domain to our storage account, we will be using the URL provided by Microsoft Azure, which comes with it by default. Once everything is done, we can go ahead and create this new endpoint and Azure will let us know once we are done with it. Once our endpoint has been created, Azure will open up this endpoint for us. As you can see, in this page, we can set a custom domain, we can stop this endpoint, or we can delete this endpoint from our CDN profile. CDN profile is different from this endpoint because CDN is a service that we have purchased from a third-party vendor, whereas an endpoint is just a single endpoint where our users can access a resource. On this dashboard or the overview page, you can see that endpoint and the origin are both configured. The protocols HTTP as well as HTTPS are both supported. The optimization type is general web delivery. In the next videos, we will take a look at how we can even further optimize our CDN network to improve the performance of our CDN network and to provide the resources more quickly. I just went ahead and tried to access the leaves file that I had uploaded to Microsoft Azure from the storage account as well as from the CDN. And as you can see, the file is accessible from both of these endpoints. Now, to better explain how this works, let's go back to the Azure portal and take a look at what's under the hood. Under the settings on the origins blade, you will find what origin does this endpoint use. The origin type for our service is going to be Azure Storage. There are other origin types also supported by Microsoft Azure such as Cloud Service or Web App, but we only want to use the storage one. Once we configure this, later on Azure also provides us with the different storage accounts that are created on this Azure subscription. We can select the one we want to use, and the endpoint will be configured to use the resources from that Azure storage account. We will leave that as it is. Similarly, the origin path is the path where Azure CDN will try to access the resources from. Leaving it default means that it will use the global scope for the domain and will try to match the pattern of the URL to the pattern of the host. We can enter some value in this origin to make it map to a different location. And lastly, the HTTP or HTTPS ports are configured. We can disable or enable any of these ports as needed. Now let me just go ahead and copy the folder name where the leaves are created. And then I will enter this information under the path for the origin. The difference that it will make is that it will now try to access each and every file under this origin path. So prepping this folder name once again will cause a problem. And if we try to access the leaves file on the same URL, you can see that it returns an error saying blob not found. Why? Because we now need to remove the directory name from the URL, but the file is still accessible on the Azure cloud because the file still exists. To solve this problem, we can just go back and remove the directory name, and we can then access the file once again because now the CDN will automatically map that container in the path. So that is how this path works. Let's go ahead and take a look at the custom domains. Basically, custom domains will only allow you to configure your CDN profile to map to a custom branded domain instead of the domain names that are provided by Microsoft Azure, such as, in this case, the Azure Edge.net. So that has covered up a lot of information about the CDNs.